News from home. The t-shirt factory burned down, and now we have nothing to wear on the tops of our bodies. Your uncle painted his torso with the melted skin of the factory workers. When the rest of the town saw that, they liked it. So now we walk around beating our chests and thinking of clever designs. Some of the knitting circle sold their sewing machines to pay for glue because skin gets flaky. There'd been a plan, approved by the mayor and the council, to boost civic pride by creating apparel based on the silhouette of the water tower and catfish billboard by the city limits. The idea, your cousin tells me, is to sell them to chiseled men and tall women to wear sexily in other states, but now all our cloth is smoke. No one can put our town on their bodies, the jobs are all grumpy and angry, fruit is sad and wilty, and we've been removed from Wikipedia. This is what the mayor told us when he visited for dinner. We had my famous lamb chops, and he asked about you, what you're doing. I said I wasn't sure because your letters are so vague. We all had a laugh about that, except for your aunt, who is not well and refuses to stay awake in church. When you come, bring any news clippings about your activities, some smelling salts and sweaters. It will be winter by then, I'm sure. This one's for Rachel. Called Bellevue is beside the point. Because the rain couldn't keep the car cool enough to get us from the floor TV to hot chili. So the windows steam and hood pop behind a gun range, the belt worn thin. In the red. Plans cancel. In the Gobi, ibexes survive on very little vegetation per year. In this way, the lions are also vegetarians, if everything you've eaten gets eaten by something else, and I am not sure that I will actually always be a carnivore if there is chili and cornbread and peaches. The lions agree. You? Bellingham, number 245. Scratched and hungover, the eggs are delicious. This town is a tape loop. Every Saturday, market fresh shoppers jostle at 11 a.m. cafes, fill with haggard youth. This town is a tape loop. A day, a night, a morning. At 11 a.m., cafes fill with haggard youth, discussing plans to leave, even if just for a week. A day, a night, a morning. A block hewn into muscle memory, discussing plans to leave, even if just for a week, once you've recovered from the bike crash. A block hewn into muscle memory, they say a thing can only hurt you once. Once you've recovered from the bike crash, so ride past again, this time a bit slower. They say a thing can only hurt you once. The ex-lover swap, head shake and whisper, so ride past again, this time a bit slower, under-eye circles, disappointed in everyone. The ex-lover swap, head shake and whisper, drinking thick beers in packed rooms, under-eye circles, disappointed in everyone, comforted by the bay's soft edges, drinking thick beers in packed rooms, rediscover your former favorite person, escaping to the bay's soft edges, an anecdote away from oblivion, rediscover your former favorite person, slouched against the donut shop, an anecdote away from oblivion, but they don't need to tell you that. Slouched against the donut shop, this town is a tape loop, a groove you lock into, but they don't need to tell you that. Sweet with its sugars, contemplating leaving with feet made of glue, scratched, hungover, the eggs are delicious. They don't wear pants in the dark. Pants are for protecting from the halogen sun's sheen off legs. In the dark, no one has legs, no one has arms, there are only feet and fingers. Below this great gas cloud painting of a city no one can agree on. There are not enough streetlights, there are too many dirty-faced people in public. The trash billows over porches and sidewalks. It is too big. But there are so many high places to peer off, so many shoulders to lean for fresh hugs, so many plates for fingers to clean. If only there were more of it. Down this long, anti-lit hallway, the roaming has been underway for several hours. clothes piled up at the doorway or the corner where the great hall opens into something room-like, a creek broadening into a great river, one that could divide states. In the dark, all the knees brush against each other and elbows touch faces tenderly, anticipating. Largely, no one can agree which city the skyline is supposed to be. The artist's statement does nothing to clarify, talking only about a failed attempt at love and a fondness for absence. If specific municipality could be determined, then relative merits and personal experience could be taken into account, and mouths could lie about agreeing to disagree in the dark. They cluster around the painting shoulder to shoulder, telling stories of what they think it's about, what they'd put dollars and more than dollars on if they'd not left their wallets in their pants by the door. This is intellectual stimulation, one brain thinks, and assumes that the other brains are thinking it too. The power fails, and the dark machine shuts down, and the yellow-gray of daytime hits everybody's moles and nipples and bellies. A pair of knees stops brushing, propels shoulders, elbows and hands into the dark machine. It's just a loose wire. It'll only be a second. Mouths stop and minds reflect that the painting looks roughly the same. A museum curator could put it pretty much anywhere. The emergency nudity handkerchiefs loosen from necks and begin covering. Someone lets out a whimper of tired embarrassment, some audibly heavy breathing, a nervous laugh, then the diving man shouts "Eureka," and everything again goes black. I have two more. This next one was a request, and I noticed that in some way or another all my things are about place tonight. This is about a place I lived that the poet Dylan Thomas once called a graveyard of ambition. It's called Ambition is Critical. Stepping through the turnstiles into Abertawe, past the magazine racks and espresso bar, out the long glass doors and square-tiled letters lie the phrase, "Ambition is critical." You're vague to where it comes from, the oft-quoted apocryphal pub shrug cliché, graveyard of. But the idea feels familiar, even as the firm handshake of the cabbie ushers you in. Go to the beach, watch the towers of Port Talbot converse in smoke with the Mumbles Lighthouse as bicycles make racecourses of palm-treed pavement. There are surprisingly fewer druids in Wales than brochures implied. This stretch of alternating hills and concrete where an entire generation lost their jobs at once. Nearby there's a room where booming voices recite poetry of old times and you quake with the delivery, the look back, tales of gone days hard up against kids kicking cans down the streets, the empty shop fronts, critical. Who writes the new poems? The bands all play covers. The stores are all chains. The pigeons and seagulls split the town into even territory, clearly marked on heads and benches. Push past the shopping centers into the pumping, boozy heart of town where men in white trainers prop up the castle with drowsy shoulders. Strike conversation, compare jokes, accents, but try to match them drink 4, and you are kicked out of every club, flailing obscenities all down Wine Street, fished out of the marina at 4 a.m. by still-pissed adventurers looking for mermaids. They are disappointed when they find you. Shake it off. Tell it back the minute you're dry. Get some spine in your laugh. That's how it's done here. Settle. Find a flat with high windows. Gaze over the rolling rooftops. Stack your books. Mount old pictures. Sink like feet in wet sand. Feel the city's firm, warm hand on your shoulder every time you look outward. Ambition. Downtown, there is a new rock night, but the bands are unrehearsed. The hip-hop show got talent from Bristol. The gallery forgot to print its address on the flyers. Another local closes its doors to shaking gray heads who mutter about changing times. There has to be something. You've felt it in late-night plans, seen the sparks, heard it in stories over beachside fires. Ambition. In times of need, you are hardly brilliant. Nostalgia can cripple, but here, history is both a sail and an anchor, the flying flag, an impossible yardstick. So, you sit in the corner of the Uplands Tavern, nestled into cushions beside a photograph of Dylan Thomas trying to write a manifesto, but all that come are odes, while the band plays a song that is not their own. Last one, also about place, and then Rainey's gonna get up here. This was also a request, so I don't just do this on purpose, but sometimes I do. When the big one hits Seattle and we are torn from concrete bridges, thrown out of lakeside homes, and dropped into the middle of evergreen wreckage, coffee, I suspect, will not be enough. No. You will perch on a crumpled sheetrock roof, thermos of instant, salvage laptop, sending out messages. I'm okay. Battery's almost dead. Send hot dogs. And cream cheese. Seeds. As they tear through layers of promo posters to move the telephone pole and aluminum sidings to find bodies of programmers and winos finally entwined in neighborhood embrace, crushed beneath the realtor's sign for completely modern urban living. When the big one hits Seattle, jokes will drip from our mouths like tar, and we will camp on lonely hills, half slid down the regrade, punctured by quiet we take for granted, and occasional I told you so's to council members. Subtext. Us sending photos to Backy's families, arms around loved ones under blankets, smiling grim. Should the seawall break, I will be thousands of miles away, munching foreign snacks in corner bakeries. When newscopters hover like metal vultures and national anchors make clumsy coffee rain references, I can be there to tell those watching with me about the cherry trees or Ethiopian food tucked behind tire repair stores. That the weather was a comfort to those with it in their bones, for whom seasonal depression was another underdog arm wrestling match we could win. When the big one hits, we will surprise the world like we did in 1889 after the fire, that beneath the layers of organic cupcake frosting and navel-gazing, there are arms that raise the forest and minds defying architecture. I will say what every transplant wants to say about their hometown. The yeah, you kinda get it, but you really don't. When the big one hits, though, I may be right here, praying mercy on a city that won't let me leave forever. Space Needle curved but not demolished. EMP looking the same. Handing out bits of fish and biscuit as we gather, rain shimmering and rippling like a flag. Yeah.